Hello and welcome to the Rail Forum Patron podcast series, where we sit down with industry leaders and explore the big ideas shaping the future of our railways. Each episode, one of our patron members will take the mic to bring forward a key topic, joined by a special guest from across the rail industry to unpack innovation, collaboration, and what it all means for the people who rely on our rail network every day. So today's episode is brought to you by Resonate, and we're diving into a powerful innovation that's recently gone live in Scotland called Initiate. It's a solution that's quietly revolutionising how possessions are managed on the railway, making them safer, more efficient, and unlocking valuable time for critical maintenance and upgrades. With us to explore what this means in real terms are Craig Milne from Network Rail Scotland and Ben Rudkin from Resonate, who have been working closely to bring Initiate to life. We'll be talking about the challenges it's addressing, the benefits it's already delivering, and how it fits into the bigger picture of rail reform and smarter operations. So let's get into it. Craig, can you give us a sense of the scale and complexity of managing possessions across the Scottish rail network?
Yep, hi Jemma, I certainly can. So, in Scotland, we've probably got we have got the largest in terms of geographic area covering Scotland. We've also got every signalling system, from obviously your modern signalling systems right through to RETB, absolute block, and tokenless block. So we've got the whole array of a big geography with different routes such as rural lines, intercity lines, commuter lines, and we've got every type of signalling system in Scotland.
And so, what are some of the key challenges that teams typically face during possession planning and execution?
I think for me the key one is over the years and for the right reasons, access has been squeezed in terms of infrastructure access and engineering access. It's been squeezed to run later trains, to run earlier trains in the morning, to run freight overnight. So how we use these access windows to safely, reliably and efficiently maintain, renew and enhance the network is at an absolute premium, and we need to get the best out of the windows we've got.
Clearly a need to do things differently as part of that. I think this nicely segues into, Ben, what exactly is Initiate?
The process for getting people to work safely on the railway hasn't changed a lot over the last few hundred years, but the conditions that we run the railway under have. It's still paper heavy, it's phone calls, it's detonators, and that railway gets busier and more complex. And we've lost the amount of time that we used to have to do that kind of vital maintenance. So what Initiate does is it, in a simple sense, it uses the signalling system and it uses digital technology to make sure those work sites are secure as blocks. So it stops trains entering or being routed towards where people are working. It's got a common view that makes sure everyone is in the right place, and it's really quick. I think that's one of the key things. It takes a minute to put on secure access compared to 20 to 30 minutes under the more traditional methods you'll find most places.
So, what inspired the development itself of Initiate? Was it a specific operational pain point or a broader industry need?
So I think originally it started off as a challenge actually that was brought to us by the Anglia route. So this was a burning platform that they had, and I think the industry had around eliminating or very significantly reducing the amount of red zone working that was being undertaken. So at the time it was very much about efficiency, doing things quicker, because where they were eliminating people working under hand signaller or eliminating where people were working without line blockages, with working red zones your last resort. So where they were doing that work, it was because it was not possible to take line blockages. It was, it took too long, it was too complicated to do. They were kind of very complex areas. So initially, Initiate came out of a challenge brought to us by Anglia. And then after that, we were working with Scotland doing Illuminator. So that challenge around how do we get rid of debts, what can we provide using our scalable signalling control system, how can we use that technology with other tools to get rid of the need for people to go out into an inherently dangerous place.
Brilliant. So lots of sort of safety and efficiency benefits from it from there. So thinking about real world impact, Craig, since Initiate's been live in Scotland, what kind of benefits have you observed?
Yeah, I think Gemma, just to give a kind of the scale of the opportunity in Scotland first, we take around nearly 15,000 possessions a year in Scotland and about 30,000 line blockages. So even for possessions, that's over 40,000 sets of detonator protection just for possessions we put out every year. So I think our big driver was safety, quickly followed by time on tools and productivity. So the benefits, where we are with Initiate so far is we've been live in 2 of the 9 workstations in Edinburgh since January. We have taken over 200 possessions already with Initiate and over 80 line blockages. Some of the benefits we've seen, well, we've not had any protection irregularities, we've not had any protection placed in the wrong place, and obviously we've not had any signal irregularities to do with possessions either. We've reduced safety critical comms, which anybody that investigates incidents will know that's usually the primary or a secondary cause of incidents. We've reduced it by nearly 6,000. So for every possession we take is between 16 and 18 safety critical comms to organise it and give it up. That's now just 2 safety critical comms, one at the start between PICOP and Sigler and one at the end. So that's 6,000 times where things could have went wrong. We've eliminated that. Road journeys, for me, Initiate hits across everything. It's safety, it's efficiency, it's productivity, but it's the sustainability challenge as well. We've reduced road journeys, taking possessions by 700 as well. We've reduced data protection by over 600 sets, and we've reduced the amount of safe work packs we've had to produce by over 800 as well. So that's the benefits we've seen so far. By September, October time, we'll go live with all 9 workstations in Edinburgh. And by February, March time next year, we'll also go live with Yoker, our west and east workstation in Yoker. So that means over 30%, or round about 30% of all access, possessions and line blockages will be taken by Initiate in Scotland before the end of this financial year.
So obviously that's from your perspective, sort of some of the benefits that have been brought. What about feedback from sort of on the ground and teams that are using it?
So as part of the implementation of Initiate, we've built what we call an access office within Edinburgh Signalling Centre, and that's part of the whole vision of integrating, which the scalable Illuminate and Initiate, the Resonate platform does. It integrates the delivery of the timetable during the day and the delivery of the engineering access at night within the one system. But we've took that principle a wee bit further, and we've built an access office within Edinburgh Signalling Centre, so it's just next door to the signaller operating floor, and that's where all our PICOPs take the possessions as well. I was through there a couple of Thursday nights ago, and the feedback's tremendous. I spoke to both PICOPs and signallers, and you can actually see, although the system has integrated the delivery of the 2 processes, the actual collaboration and interface between the 2 roles, which is obviously the key roles when you're taking access to the track. The PICOPs are actually going through, speaking to the signallers before the possession on the operating floor, coming back through, and then obviously through the safety critical comms and recorded comms, taking the possession. So it's built up their relationships, because they've never met each other before. They've never known each other's faces, but it's really integrated that whole process.
For our listeners that might not be as familiar, what's PICOPs?
So PICOP's a person in charge of possession. So a PICOP is basically the person that makes the railway safe in order for our maintenance, renewals and enhancements teams to go in and deliver their work, and they do that in conjunction with the signaller. When trains stop, the PICOP will contact the signaller, make sure trains have stopped, and take that piece of the network under possession. And as Ben said before, we used to need to put out people placing possession limit boards, which is basically flashing red lights, and fog signals, which are detonated. So we had to go and actually put these physically out in the track to take a possession. That used to take 20 and 30 minutes, and now it's just one phone call, and it's all done within the system, and that protects that area of the network where we're planning doing work.
You mentioned in there a couple of other parts of Resonate's platforms like Illuminate and things like that. Just for a little bit of context to our listeners, do you want to just talk to that for a second, Ben?
So Initiate is our possession management platform. We've got Illuminate, which is our traffic management system. And so one of the benefits you've got if you've got Initiate and you've got Illuminate is your line blocks, your possessions, your access that's, as it's planned into Initiate will then show up for the operators on the day. So they'll be able to see that in Illuminate traffic management. They'll be able to see the impact that has, or hopefully the impact that doesn't have on the train service. But where there are impacts, they're able to use that to see that in advance, be able to then help decision making in terms of what they then do with those services, divert round, cancel, or do they move the access. Kind of gives them an opportunity of that information in advance they might not previously have spotted to then be able to do something different. So it's obviously quite an exciting combination between those two things, and it all works in tandem with our signalling control system.
Craig, was there any unexpected benefits that you've sort of realised as a result of introducing Initiate and other platforms?
I think one of the unexpected benefits is what I just described, the building of relationships between key operational roles who basically have never met each other, that they only know each other's voice at the other end of the phone until now, until we've actually built that access office and brought the two key roles together. I think another one is with the extra time that we're getting. So the railway is engineering works in the railway is very much focused on a Saturday night, because that's when we get longer access windows. Actually, by getting the possession on quicker and keeping it on longer at the end, we are now seeing that we can probably spread out our resource in our task profile. So some activities that could only be done on a Saturday night could actually now be done in a midweek night, whether that's changing a rail, doing a couple of wells, using certain types of plant. So what that means is everybody fights for the same resource on a Saturday night, and it's absolutely a premium. I don't know how many works get cancelled on a Saturday night because you can't get a pickup, you can't get a machine controller, you can't get welders. But by spreading work out across every night of the week where we can get access, it means that we can obviously spread the task and the resource out as well, and it won't just be focused on that weekend.
Lots of optimization there, and then also, I guess, customer impact for those that are using the services. You're sort of working around and planning and sort of seeing the opportunity costs for where you might be able to do some works versus operations.
I think that's a key one as well in terms of impact on the end customer. We've had a couple of kind of high profile position overruns in the North Electric lines, which Yoker Signalling Centre covers, and they've overrun by maybe 20 or 30 minutes because we've just not had enough time to do the task. Something's went wrong. But if you fast forward to February or March when we implement Initiate, we'd have had that extra time. So we wouldn't have overrun, and we wouldn't have had affected the customers in the morning who were waiting for their first train. So I think that's probably an additional benefit as well. I've not mentioned we should see a lot less impact from overrunning engineering works to the customer in the morning.
Yeah, it's definitely I think as Craig says, what it gives you is time, and you can use that time however you could use that time to do more work. You could use that time to give yourself more contingency. You can use that time to recover from overruns quicker. You could potentially use that time to run trains later, start trains earlier, reduce the amount of blocks that you might need to maintain the same bit of kit. It's I guess the time is really, that's what it gives you on these jobs, alongside the safety benefits, but the real efficiency benefit is time. And then the railway's got the choice there to how it wants to utilise that time.
So you mentioned February there in terms of introducing it. How did you get that up and running so quickly?
But basically, I mean, Resonate presented this to us. It was January this year it went live in an operational environment. Resonate presented the system to us in Scotland in February last year. And right away, we seen that this could be a game changer. But it wasn't product approved for the secondary protection part. And Resonate needed a partner to work with them to develop the system so that it was fit for purpose for that operational environment. So right away, we seen the benefit of it. We partnered with Resonate, we put the right resource behind it, we put the right focus behind it, and anybody that's brought in new technology in railway, especially technology that's changing probably your most outdated working practice, knows that it's not a walk in the park. So for us to be presented something that was not product approved back in February last year, then to be operationally live in January, it's probably unheard of. But it's just with the right leadership, the right focus, the right product, and just obviously just trying to plough through all the barriers that you need to, and all the different panels and everything you need to get there. But I think it's pretty much unprecedented to deliver technology this fast.
Yeah, certainly is fast. I mean, I think it's really testament, as Craig says there, to the kind of partnership approach that we took in terms of really working hand in glove on this stuff. It was obviously at the Rail Innovation Awards earlier this year, and it was Tufik, the head of GBRX, kind of, I'm paraphrasing him quite a lot here, but his keynote speech was very much around how it takes too long in this industry to be able to deliver things like this, and too long to get innovation through. And so I think this was, so I think this is a really, really good example of how that partnership working really closely between, Network Rail, between us at Resonate, between other partners, that kind of, I think it really demonstrates the value of that we were able to do this in 11 months. And, Scotland are there now already reaping the benefits.
And the approvals process and how you get things onto the network is always something that people want to see work quicker. So there's probably a good case study there.
Certainly right that there's the correct level of scrutiny for such critical systems, but it's, doing that stuff in a timely way, making sure that the route to go through. And I think, between us, we had some very experienced people in the team who'd been through this before. We had, working closely with Scotland, we were able to get the airtime to really kind of push this stuff forward. Scotland and Craig's team really saw the benefit and the potential this early. So it was really able to kind of just almost infect people with that enthusiasm to get this done.
For me, it just shows it can be done, because I think a lot of people, when it comes to this type of innovation and new technology, they start with a kind of can't-do attitude, and I think just this shows that it really can be done if you really put the right focus and the right team behind it.
So we've just been talking about how you managed to get in such a short timescale, actually, product approval and getting it live. So what are some of the sort of wider barriers to innovation that you think that sort of supply chain is facing?
I think, so certainly something that we identified through this is knowing who to speak to in terms of just even that initial barrier to innovation. You could have an idea, but if you don't know who to speak to find out if it's a good idea, find out what the next thing to do is. I think that's and it's a very big, complex beast, the railway industry, and I think so certainly, knowing where to start, I think can hold back quite a lot of innovation.
I think for me that there's not one bit of paper or process that you can pick up and actually say to take something like initiate to start to finish. This is where you need to go, who you need to speak to, where you need to present, who needs to approve it. You've got to go through rules, standards, safety, technical, system, investment, panels and forums and approvals, both local and nationally. You've obviously got to through trade union engagement as well at a national and local level. So there's so much engagement required. We now know in Scotland exactly what it takes, and we were pretty relentless at speaking to the right people and writing ourselves a timeline and making sure we got on the right agendas, making sure we'd spoke to the right people before it, and obviously we come out the other end with answers. But I also think there's a lot of myths out there. I think people have put this type of thing in the too hard box and think there's too much bureaucracy. There might be, but I think we've proven that as long as you understand who you need to speak to, where you need to go, that it can be done. So I think there is a lot of myths out there, and people just start with that defeatist attitude because of that.
Do you definitely see an appetite for innovation across Network Rail, across the industry?
I think there's got to be, but we'll never evolve and be safer, be faster, be more efficient. Do you know what I mean? Deliver the challenges that we've set in this control period and next, without being quick at innovation, but also failing fast. Not everything you do is going to work, so you've got to fail fast as well and move on to the next thing if it's not working.
What's next is my next question. So is there a potential for Initiate to be scaled beyond? I know you mentioned a few developments in Edinburgh.
At the end of this financial year, we'll be taking 30% of access in Scotland, so possessions and line blockages via the Initiate system. There's three main elements that are absolutely required to keep staff safe in order to undertake works in the railway. There's taking a possession or line block, there's taking a work site, and there's taking an isolation of the overhead lines if you need that to undertake your work. They three things, although they're required, are unproductive. So they are, and they take time. So if you take a 4-hour access window, during the week access window, these three things can easily take out an hour and a half of that. So then you've only got 2.5 hours to actually do physical works, which obviously, if your staff and your plant are all booked out for an 8-hour shift, you're only getting 2.5 hours actual productive time. So, as I say, we are quickly digitising possessions, making them safer and faster. We are now looking at geofencing solutions to take virtual work sites to remove the need to actually place work site marker boards to demarcate work sites. And the next piece of the jigsaw, which there is concepts out there, is how do we remotely earth and isolate the the overhead lines. If we can have they three things working in tandem, that removes the unproductive time, and that will maximise the time we've got on track to undertake works that will make it a safer and more reliable railway.
So, Ben, what does the roadmap look like for you?
Certainly, wherever they're scalable, which we've got it all around the UK, there's an opportunity to realise the same success in terms of getting that more time to do that work, or recover from things that go wrong, or as we say, taking people off track, stopping putting debts down. So, there's that big opportunity to see that success elsewhere. Certainly in terms of the future for Initiate, we're definitely listening and reflecting on some of the earlier questions as well, and the value of working together. We're listening for those problem statements from the industry of what is the next thing that we need to fix? How do we keep making this system more efficient, in line with those CP7 targets around efficiency, and, how do we help do that? How do we help take cost out of the railway, make things more efficient, make things more safe? We can see there's a lot of opportunity out there. Craig's spoke about other things around, the opportunities for geofencing and things like that. And how do we take more things out of more physical bits and pieces out of possessions and work sites to kind of move to a more modern and efficient way of doing things, get even more time back. I think certainly there's opportunities in the planning space, ahead of time. How do we plan things better? How do we deconflict things better? Yeah, no, I think it's a very broad opportunity in terms of improving long-term planning, short-term planning, and possession delivery.
I'd be remiss not to, with my Rail Safety Week hat, mention the fact that obviously this is incredible to see innovations that are contributing to the safety of our rail workforces, those that are out and on the tracks. So massive praise to you for that. And hopefully hear more about it in next year's Rail Safety Week as a case study feature. So Craig and Ben, if there's one thing you'd each like the industry to take away from this conversation, what would it be?
I think for me that just that it can be done. So don't think it can. It really can be done if you put the right focus and the right team behind it. And I think Ben's probably going to say about the partnership, but that's the one thing for me.
As Craig says, I think it can be done is such an important message. So certainly when we're talking to other customers on other routes, they're going, how did Scotland manage it? How did they do all that? Like, they have an army of people that were there doing business change. Did they have? And there was a team there, but it was a fairly modest team. It was really just around believing that it could be done, and being willing to believe that everyone else wanted it to be done as well. They won't have to be fighting everyone. Certainly for me, that's kind of what it felt like when I looked in. That it was, could see that it was a good thing. They were bringing everyone along with them. It really meant that we were able to fix the problems that Craig had, and that his team and wider organisation were grappling with.
Just to finish us off, what does a smarter, safer and more efficient railway mean to you personally?
I think for me, it means a railway that's fit for purpose, for its workforce, for passengers, for freight and for the taxpayer, and also a railway that's fit for the future.
From a personal perspective, I spent a lot of my career before Resonate at Network Rail in operations, and then at a train operator in operations. And so certainly just in this quite specific context, for me, it's all about a railway where technology facilitates those better outcomes, safer, more reliable, more cost effective, and, a better customer experience for passengers and freight.
And that's absolutely what GBR will be about, what Great British Railways will be about. So I'd just like to say my sincere thanks to both Craig and Ben for joining us for our first Patron podcast. And we hope you enjoyed listening, and we look forward to tuning in for the next one.